Namaskar, you are watching In Conversation on D-Day India. I am Danveer Singh. In today's episode, we dive deep into India's strategic evolution following the landmark Operation Sindur, an operation that reshaped our political calculus, defense posture, and regional perception. Joining us is someone who has been at the forefront of operations in one of India's most challenging theatres, Kashmir. Former GOC of 15 Corps, a thinker soldier and a strategist, military veteran, Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey. General Pandey, welcome to In Conversation.
Thank you, Danveer. Thank you so much.
So let's begin with the operation that arguably resets the Indian military psyche, that is Operation Sindur. So General Pandey, how did Operation Sindur alter the strategic, political, military interface?
Yeah, I think most importantly, I will look into is the political decisiveness on this aspect, that they gave a free hand to the military to carry out this operation the way they wanted to execute. Of course, the most important part is that instead of rushing across to the diplomatic arena, international world, with so-called dossiers and stuff like that, I think last decade has seen a transformation in our attitude vis-a-vis terror which is being prosecuted into our territory. So for once, we have been waging war technically, going across the line of control, or now in the latest scenario, across the international boundary to punish the perpetrators of the terror which is taking place in our country. And I think that's a major paradigm shift which is taking place.
And sir, there has been narrative warfare as well alongside, and we have seen India shifting gears on narrative warfare. So how important was this perception management at that time? And now when we look at the parliament and the debates, sometimes it gives you a feeling that there are some who are on the other side of the narrative. How do you look at that?
Yeah, what has changed is that when information warfare was always being prosecuted by the enemy state, and also that is one of very important component of war fighting, shaping the mind of not only your own people, but also trying to attack the mind of the target country has been the norm. The businesses, the corporates, especially the deep state and the Western world, have been doing quite effectively this facet. We have started realizing its importance. And I think for once, actually Kargil was one of the major shifts which took place, in which we brought in the media channels to carry out live, it was telecast live for the entire country and the world to see how the war was unfolding. But in this case, I think for once, Indian state has realized that we are not going to be benign anymore in the narrative of war fighting, and we are going to take this war fighting across to the country, which is perpetrating the terror onto our nation. So that is one very important phase which has changed, and I think that is how it is going to be in future. While you have articulated this issue of what has happened in the parliament, we are democracy. Therefore, possibly debates are norm in which this will happen. But I guess it is high time that we start educating our politicians to understand that when matters of national security comes about, there are certain subjects which should not be discussed into a public platform as such, because eventually the same narrative what you're going to talk of is going to be exploited by the enemy in a very different manner. So it is time, I guess, for people to be educated on this very important facet called information warfare, or the battle of narratives.
So, and in this segment of Operation Sindur, we have seen that many have tried to drag in this ceasefire issue and try to make a controversy out of it. So, I'll ask you as a military general, was this ceasefire a premature announcement or a tactical recalibration? So what are your thoughts on that as a professional?
So, well, views may be many, but I think it is the right decision which was taken. Firstly, it is not technically a ceasefire, it is just a pause. So the sword of Damocles continues to hang onto the head of the handlers of the terrorists who are operating in our country, that in case you violate the peace which has been there with us, we are going to come back to you. So that is one part. Second, please understand there are two facets when happen when you apply military force. Is the last instrument of power which is used when everything else fails possibly. So when we had gone for Operation Sindur, there were two very essential mandate. One was the military mandate, which was given to us to the armed forces by the Prime Minister, and it was given quite publicly that the people who are behind this terror attack in Pahalgam, the dastardly act of 22nd April, are going to be punished and they'll be searched and destroyed. So what happened on 6th, 7th night was fulfilling of a political mandate given to the military, and the military mission was to strike on the launch pads, and mind you, for the first time ever, the global headquarters of Lashkar, Jaish and HM were also hit in Pak Punjab as well. So this was a major paradigm shift, I guess. It is a free hand which was given to the military to carry out this operation, which sends a signal that we will hit you, we will strike you at will wherever you are. I think that's a great thing which has happened.
Absolutely, sir. In this segment, we'll talk about Operation Mahadev. It was bold and meticulously executed operation. Indian intelligence and special struck back with devastating precision. Operation Mahadev, a classified mission, was carried out to neutralize Pakistani terrorists responsible for horrific Pahalgam carnage. This wasn't just a tactical retaliation, it was a message, a reminder that India will not let blood go unavenged. So, now my question to General D.P. Pandey, who has been the 15th Corps Commander, and this particular operation took place over there itself. So, with your experience, sir, what could have been the key objectives of this Operation Mahadev, and how precisely it was executed to avenge Pahalgam attack, sir?
So firstly, let me clarify that Indian Army never lets a terrorist get away. That has been a norm. And as a state, as a country, I'm quite proud that anybody who's carried out a terrorist strike has been touched, destroyed eventually over a period of time. It may not happen immediately, but surely we reach out and we neutralize that terrorist. What is very worth complimenting in this operation is that over 90 days from Pahalgam till the entire reaches of Kashmir Heights, it is dense forest, it is high altitude area, it is also snow-clad. There are a large number of steep falls, cuts and caves in this region. It is very easy for a small element, that is 1 to 2 to 3, 4 people, to hide for a very, very long time and sustain themselves with a very little amount of effort, especially when you are actually fighting for your own life. So nearly for 90 days plus, the soldiers have been searching the higher reaches in combination with intelligence agencies who were trying to listen on to the communication part and see how it can be developed. Eventually, I think the entire country was quite not satisfied with Operation Sindur, in which the terror camps and the headquarters were struck, and eventually it was escalated to strike the military establishment installations of Pakistan army as well. What everybody wanted was the person who wielded the gun also should be neutralized. I think credit goes to Chinar Corps and his brave soldiers, to 4SF, and the entire team of security forces, including Jammu and Kashmir Police, CRPF, and everybody who ensured that these terrorists are not able to get away from that region of Kashmir, and they are neutralized where they actually carried out the act. So I think this, and I'm extremely proud because, I'm also the boss of this corps, and therefore they have delivered to the country what they really wanted to.
That's really very amazing operation, sir. But what really intrigues further is that for 90 days the intelligence was kept close, and you have been the Corps Commander. There are plethora of intelligence agencies working over there. So how difficult it would have been to manage these intelligence agencies and keep everything under wraps, especially from the OGWs or the overground and the underground workers, because Pakistan would be very much interested in protecting their assets, sir.
Yeah, you please understand, I'll just give you a very quick backdrop. There were about 6 of them, right? 5 Pak terrorists and one who was trained in Pakistan. And eventually, what happened is that they were the ones who carried out large number of strikes in the Jammu region, if you recall, in last about year and a half. And after having done, I think they moved on to this area of Pahalgam to carry out a spectacular strike, which was required at that very moment of time by Asim Munir, who possibly wanted to use it for certain purpose. And therefore, the way this entire Pahalgam took place in terms of religious segregation before killing unarmed civilians was to drive a couple of messages home. I will not talk about this, but the fact of the matter is that the intricate detail in which the NIA, the various tech agencies and the human agencies went across, in which the line of operations and wherever they had moved was eventually identified and neutralization started taking place. And if you recall, a few days back, 2 brothers were picked up who had assisted this group in terms of, and by the way, they are the ones who have identified the bodies as well.
The logistics part.
The logistics part. And also, when this was totally confirmed, it was emerging out that and everybody wanted to know, was it a false flag operation? All these things came very, very true in the sense that these 3 Pak terrorists were actually identified, fixed into an area wherein they could not get away. And this happened because large number of troops were put into these areas, trying to box in this element. And eventually they were neutralized yesterday as part of Mahadev.
So can we say, sir, or will it be correct to say that now we have entered a new phase as far as counter-insurgency strategy is concerned? It is going to be more covert, more targeted and more unforgiving?
Yeah, it was always unforgiving. But yes, I think the country now demands from us as people in uniform or from the government that no act of terror should go unpunished.
So now the larger questions we are talking about Mahadev and Operation Sindur. Can such operations like Sindur per se really deter future cross-border terrorism, sir?
No, please understand that look what Israel has been doing or what America with very, very large integrated network of intelligence and people and countries on their payroll have not been able to achieve. They have been struck number of times in terms of the Americans have gone for a couple of wars on this subject, but have they been able to actually stop terror strikes? No, I don't think so. But yes, it does get certain degree of caution. 2016 happened and we went for surgical strike. There was a peace for about 3 years. 2019, we went for Balakot. There was a certain degree of tentative peace for about 6 years. So I think it allows us some space to have. But if anybody says that even a war going to stall, until is the very nature, the strategic orientation of Pakistan changes. The ideological pillars on which they carry out these change of minds, to say that we are going to stop, there'll be a zero terror attack eventually after going for Operation Sindur or any level of war fighting, I don't think will be true.
So let's hope that there is a bigger impact. Now let's switch gears. Let's talk about military modernization. The Indian Army is gearing up for a bold structural shift on the battlefield. This was announced by the Chief of Indian Army at Kargil Divas celebrations recently. In a major move towards integrated warfare, the Army has announced creation of Rudra Brigades, potent all-arms formation that can bring together infantry, mechanized units, artillery and armor under one cohesive command. These brigades are not just about synergy, they represent a doctrinal shift, preparing for swift, high-intensity, multi-domain operations, especially along the volatile borders. As tensions simmer in sensitive theaters, this is the beginning of new era in India's war-fighting approach. So, General, let's talk about the battlefield of tomorrow, which will be dominated by drones and missiles. So, Rudra Brigades is a new entry into that. So, what do you see? How do you visualize this change, sir?
This change was very much warranted because, firstly, large organizations take time to mobilize and react and operate, right? In today's time-sensitive environment wherein everything is so transparent that all activities which take place on ground can be observed from satellites, from drones, from variety of systems of electromagnetic spectrum, you require forces which are smaller, agile, much more punishing in terms of the kind of equipment they carry, and they are able to move swiftly across the enemy territory to fulfill the mission which is required by the military. So Rudra brigades are that one step forward towards that direction, in which it will encompass all major elements of war fighting, of the combat element which are required, and also the combat support element, enmeshed under one commander who doesn't hereinafter have to look back, that for fulfilling that initial mission which is required, he needs to stitch a force together as a task force and carry out an operation. This entire structure is already available. It's a plug-and-play system. So tomorrow, let's say, you require to pick up a complete cohesive brigade, including its logistics element, its combat support elements like signals and everything, and also the element of war fighting, and you want to use them to some other place to reinforce or to react or to operate, it can be done quite easily and swiftly. So that is one part. And the third layer, which is the next layer, which is very important, is the layer of drones. And if you've seen that last decade or so, the importance of drones can be not underscored. It can be spoken enough about. And therefore, this also additional element is being not only incorporated at various unit levels, but also at the formation level, in which drones will be available to carry out tasks.
I was to ask you this question because we have seen during the Operation Sindur that at strategic level, drones have played havoc on the enemy. We have destroyed very big assets as far as Pakistan is concerned. We are talking of the loitering ammunition. But when we talk of the tactical battlefield area, sir, how far we are? We have seen what is happening in Ukraine. They have proved themselves to be very, very effective. So are we also there, or we are even more ahead of what we see in Ukraine, sir?
Yeah, so the good part of our armed forces is that we continue to evolve by seeing what is emerging in the world and what is coming out into various documents and all. And trust me that drone was always in our drones, and tactical, mid-segment and long-range drones were always our subject of interest, because what they bring to table is something very, very important for very, very strategic assets for us. So therefore, this shift has been happening, and with this whole Atmanirbhar thing, which is ongoing, it has allowed us the entire range of ecosystem in our country to start investing into this facet from tactical to strategic level, while we don't have those capacities even now to be able to make something like Reapers and all today with our country. But we are quite well ahead in those programs. We've got large number of companies which are working at this subject. But the tactical level, I think we are already there. We have learnt our lessons. In fact, a number of our units were used in Operation Sindur, and they did deliver with great precision and great advantage to us.
So while talking about Rudra Brigade, we have spoken a lot about that. We are also hearing something about Bhairav battalions. So are they the special forces like paracommandos, or there is a different fit to this?
Yeah, so they are actually different fit to it, but they have got the role and play which is actually akin to special forces. But their task is going to remain at the tactical level. The special forces are meant for strategic influence and strategic purposes. These are going to be at the level of tactical and operation. They are going to be much more lighter. They will be able to carry various platforms which are lighter for them to move across. And more importantly, they'll be able to bridge the gap which is required to be from the tactical level military operations to the strategic level in terms of where the SF battalions are going to be deployed. So if I say, it will be safe to assume and say that at the line of LC and LAC, this is the force which is going to be deployed in close proximity to this thing. And it denies the enemy variety of options which are there to have a play with our forces. They will open up our variety of avenues and options eventually to go inside the enemy territory. So that's a very important facility that comes. Yeah.
When we talk of Rudraization of Indian Army, it would be meaningless without an overall command restructure. India's military command structure is on the cusp of historic transformation. The long-awaited theatre command system is finally taking shape, with appointment of country's first ever theatre commander now on the horizon. This move aims to unify the Army, Navy, and the Air Force under a single operational leadership to fight as one, plan as one, and strike as one. But India's theatre command plan appears to be delayed, and this delay could make us pay dearly. So, why this delay and what is at stake, General Pandey?
So, while everybody is enthused with the theatre commands, but it's better that a well-structured, well-debated theatre commands are rolled out, in which the sluggishness which is already there in terms of the formation which are there should not be incorporated. So, if you rush in, because we are a large army and this transformation which takes place, there are two ways to do it. One is bottom up and second is top down. I think a number of things which are low-hanging fruits have been addressed, and large number of activities taking place at the lower levels. Whatever is possible has been done. The only thing which is left today is to actually announce a theatre command and per se a theatre commander. So while delays are always going to be costly, but I think pragmatism before you actually carry out this restructuring and announce it and do it on the ground is best, because we have active borders, right? Unlike China, which did not have when they carry out these changes. So, and the Americans who took a call that they are not going to go into war fighting for some time. And please understand, even with Americans, it is still struggling with the theatre commands. So the good part of our theatre commands which is going to come about is, it will be not one size fits all. It will be a theatre command based on requirement, geographical, and the enemy requirement should be there. So it's best that they invest adequate time enough to actually prepare before they roll out.
So whenever we come, we should come with a firm footing. The world has woken up to the fact that India is rising economically, diplomatically, and militarily. From the global boardrooms to Indo-Pacific theatre, New Delhi is no longer just a participant. It is becoming a pole in its own right way. But with rise comes resistance. As India asserts itself on the world stage, contestation is growing from hostile neighbors, competing global powers, and even within are the fractured multilateral forums. So, General Pandey, I would like to ask you that since India is rising and so is the contestation, who is pushing back, and what's your understanding of this dynamic geopolitical picture emerging, sir?
So you asked a question which covers a large canvas, but let me just start using your platform to inform the policymakers. Quite a few of them start believing that they will be able to navigate these geopolitical churnings through economic heft and polite diplomatic engagements. Without a strong military, we cannot. Without a Surakshit Bharat, we cannot have a Viksit Bharat in 2047. So this pillar of a well-prepared, strong military is very, very imperative for future development. The second thing, what is happening today, is from the globalization shift in which the supply chains were secure. There's a very great period of about a couple of decades in 20th century that people enjoyed peace and stability in one form or other. 21st century has been the time of technological disruptions. And also these technological disruptions have ensured that everybody is looking for their own national interest first rather than looking at the globalized, the world's interest. And in this, I think the articulation of the Prime Minister, Vasudeva Kudumbakam, is something which stands out very unique, towards which, as long as our country continues to progress on the number of projects which has been thrown out from this very basic philosophy, will allow us to actually navigate these geopolitical churnings. I just want to make one thing very clear, that no rise of a country is going to be uncontested. How you manage it is an important fast. The challenge today is with the rare earth materials coming in, looking for the markets, looking for resources are becoming a very, very primary motivators for various national leaders. And most importantly, the job issue, because everybody is looking for job for their own people, because that that honeymoon period, which used to be called of a colonial mindset, that you can carry on harnessing the resources of all over the world and your own population will sit back, is now going away because the rest of the world is coming onto the stage and seeking their own place. So it's from a unipolar world to a bipolar world to a multipolar world. This shift is quite evident, and that is how it's going to be remaining for next at least decade or so. And in this, India, because of its economical heft of about 4 trillion and going on to be 5 trillion couple of more years, finds a very suitable place. And I'm sure the minds, the brains of our policymakers are going to make use of it.
In fact, but like what you just mentioned, we can say that how India has responded so far, be it the Iran-Israel crisis or ongoing Russia-Ukraine, Gaza, and our own, India has responded well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because in this world in which people are wanting you to be either with us or on the highway, I think we have navigated. We have been able to actually very firmly answer this question. That, for example, that why are you taking the Russian oil? I think the data which was thrown back by our diplomats and our political leadership to the Western world, who were wanting us to cut our oil connection with Russia, or our connection, the strategic connection which have been there for so many
in fact, we
decades.
have shown our strategic autonomy very well.
Very, very clearly.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sir.
absolutely.
Finally, before we wind up, General Pandey, what is your message to India's next generation military leadership and policy makers?
Yeah, be deft. The pace of change is going to be much more faster than you can imagine. And therefore, there's a thing which I propagate is called strategic agility. If you need to take a decision and continue to move on, you cannot say that I'm going to wait for it to unfurl, come out quite in open. You'll not get the complete knowledge of what is going to happen tomorrow. But if you take a decision, you can keep on modifying your decisions as you progress. So staying status quo is not the right way. Adapting to change, and especially the disruptions of technology, is important. Embrace it and roll it out for your looking after the security needs of a country.
Thank you, General Pandey, for your deep insights from battlefield shifts to grand strategy recalibration. India is definitely at a critical juncture, and it will take vision, integration, and resilience to navigate this new world full of challenges. That's it on In Conversation. Jai Hind.